it has been our pleasure during this GOP Senate campaign in the state of Ohio to talk to all the candidates. And I've had the pleasure twice before of speaking with U.S. Senate candidate Mike Gibbons, and I'm glad to have Mike back on the show on the final day of the campaign before the primary tomorrow. Mike, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
So, home stretch, where are you today? Where are you headed? And what time will you finish up?
Just pulling into downtown Youngstown.
Very good. Well, your bus tour's been everywhere in the state of Ohio. If the people in the state of Ohio want somebody who's been to every county, I understand you're the man, all 88 of them, right?
Yes, we have been to every one. In fact, many of them multiple times.
What do you find, is there a difference in what people are telling you when you're in a big city as opposed to when you're in the rural areas? Is there a difference from Northeast Ohio to Central Ohio to Southern Ohio? What kind of messages have you been receiving from the voters?
I think there is a difference. The more rural counties, are very, very quickly you learn that they're very worried about America. They're very worried about the direction of the country. And I don't know, in the large cities, you see people that are more ambivalent about what's going on. I at least that's my impression. But I would say generally, even in Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, Hamilton County, Lucas County, Mahoning County for that matter, you still have a lot of Republicans very concerned about the direction of our country.
Mike,
and I understand that. That's why I'm running.
Mike Gibbons is our guest, and you can find out more about Mike and what he stands for as a candidate at his website, gibbonsforohio.com. His Twitter is Mike Gibbons OH. Have you been approached very often, Mike, by people who say they're former Democrats and they've left the party? And if so, what do they tell you about why they're leaving the party and why they're responding to your candidacy?
Well, I can tell you yes. And it usually happens at either truck stops or gas stations or places, I went into a speedway in Marietta, Ohio, and I always drink Diet Mountain Dew when I'm riding around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably not good for me, but I like it. And I walked up to the counter and I put down a couple of the bottles of Diet Mountain Dew, and they said, "Your money's no good here." And the guy next to me in line said, "I was a Democrat my whole life. I'll never vote Democrat again." And I've heard that over and over and over. People getting out of their trucks or their cars at truck stops, walking over and saying, we had one guy that pulled a couple $100 out of his back pocket and said, "I want to contribute this to your campaign. I'm a Democrat, or I was a Democrat. I'm never voting Democrat again." I think the Democrat Party has shot a lot of these people's conscience. I really do.
And do they give you a specific reason why? I mean, not that there's not ample options there to check the box of why you've abandoned the Democratic Party if you're a former Democrat voter, but what do they mention when they say they've done that?
Well, I've talked to a lot of friends that have been lifelong Democrats. I don't have a lot of friends that are Democrats because that's become kind of an issue now. But I still have some, and I go, "How can you vote Democrat? How possibly can you even consider it?" And he goes, "Well, I don't believe in any of that stuff the left wing of the Democrat Party is saying." I said, "But they're putting the people in power that really are indoctrinating our youth, are trying to radically transform this country. How can you do that?" "Oh, they're not really doing that. They haven't come to the self-realization yet that their party has left them." And I think they're doing that slowly but surely. I think you're going to see a red wave like never before in this upcoming election. It's the Democrat Party does not reflect the attitudes of the average American. And we have to defeat them, even from dog catcher on up. We need to get them out of office until they understand. When I grew up in a Democrat household, and all my entire family's Republican now. When John F. Kennedy was elected, it was a big deal. John F. Kennedy would be a Republican now. It's the change in the Democratic Party and the influence of their left wing has radically transformed that party. And, I, as an American, I don't know how you could support it.
Mike Gibbons is our guest, running for Senate on the GOP side of the primary. His website, gibbonsforohio.com. His Twitter is Mike Gibbons OH. Mike, the point you make that you've heard from Democrats is a point I've made many times. I agree with you on your assessment of JFK. Any candidate who would say, and I think this is signature, most famous line John F. Kennedy ever uttered, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That is not a sentiment that is or has played in the Democratic Party for a very long time.
No, in fact, they would call us extremists for saying that.
Yeah,
and they believe in this socialist utopia. Marxism has infiltrated their entire party philosophy, and their intent upon dividing this country. Between the oppressed and the oppressors, it's a false narrative, and we need to have somebody that's willing to go and state the facts every time, repeatedly. That's what I want to do. I've got 5 kids, and I don't like their prospects right now.
Well, Mike, you've put essentially your money where your mouth is, where your heart is. You put your life on hold. You have a successful life. You didn't need to do this. You've chosen to do it. I'm sure it comes from a genuine motivation to give back to your country, and you've put, estimates are, a lot of your own personal wealth into this. If you don't win on Tuesday, what have you learned from this experience, and will you consider this experience worth everything you've invested emotionally, financially, and in your time?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I can imagine people saying, what a dummy, this guy just spent a bunch of money and lost. Well, first of all, I don't think I'm going to lose, and I think, our feeling is we're right in the thick of this thing, and there's still a lot of undecideds, and, I believe in my heart that a lot of those people will see who the real American value candidate is. But you know what, Bruce? When you spend money trying to help your country, it is an honorable thing to do, and I will never regret the attempt to try to get this state to send somebody to Washington that really cares about this country, and not themselves or not their being part of the Washington elite or being a celebrity. I detest that about our political system, and I want to go there and spend every day, 20 hours a day, like I did when I formed my business, making sure that we're trying to convince people that the values that got this country become the envy of the world are the ones that really matter. And I intend to do that every day, and then come home. I'm going to get a lot done.
Mike Gibbons is our guest, running for the Senate seat on the Republican side of the ticket. gibbonsforohio.com, his website. Mike Gibbons OH is his Twitter. I can only imagine someone like yourself who understands the sacrifice a person has to make wealth creation-wise to start a business, to get a business going, how you must feel when you hear reports that Joe Biden wants to cancel student debt, either in full or in part. I think, obviously, the financial drawbacks of that, Mike, are going to be catastrophic for our country. He couldn't get Build Back Better passed, so he wants to just spend another $1.7 trillion that is supposed to be paid back to the government, either in full or in part. But the other part of it that I worry about is the mindset that it puts in place, which is, you can take out a big loan, you don't have to pay it back. I think that's incredibly damaging for our country.
I agree. Those were decisions that were made. They were bad decisions. Now, I will tell you, I think students that are trapped in high interest loans, there could be help offered to those people, but they've got to pay back the principal. They made a bad decision. That if they pay if the government pays off their student loans and they go out and buy a car they can't afford. Is it the government's responsibility to pay that car loan off because they made a bad decision? I don't think so.
Yeah.
We have to restore personal responsibility in this country, and I believe most Republicans believe that. I know I do.
Yeah.
And is there much difference between Joe Biden and Hugo Chavez in trying to win an election by buying off his voters? I don't think so. And we can't let that happen in this country.
Mike, as you wrap up here on the show, thank you for your time. And I know you and every candidate wanted Donald Trump's endorsement. You didn't get it, but I don't think that changes how you're going to legislate if you're a senator. You still believe in America first. And I just want to give you a chance to respond to the fact that, he endorsed someone else. But I think all of you, whoever wins this, unless it's Dolan, I'm not sure that he would be. In fact, I have said I would never vote for him unless it's against Tim Ryan. It's the only candidate he would be better than. But I just wanted to give it a chance to speak to the Trump endorsement, how that broke down, and how you're persevering through that, plowing through that, and how you confront that when people on the campaign trail ask you about it.
Well, it was disappointing to me. I wish he would have stayed out if he was going to make an endorsement other than if he would have endorsed me. But I never asked him for an endorsement. I think that you have to look at each individual, look at their resume, look what they've accomplished in their lives. Look at how they've lived up to the American ideals, and elect those people. I go all around and give speeches, and I go, we got to get rid of career politicians. All they are is about themselves. Yet one of my primary opponents, who everybody seems to think is, or not everybody, a good group of people think is represents who they want in the U.S. Senate, is a pure career politician, and that's Josh. Mm-hmm. He's never spent a day in the private sector. He served honorably in the Marine Corps, got out, and then the rest of his life he has spent either running for office or serving in some capacity, elected capacity. How can a person that has never been in the private sector relate at all to the average American? How can they have anything to comment on as far as the economy goes? Is there anything more important to the America right now than our economy? Yet we're sending, there's many people that are voting for a guy that has not the foggiest idea of how the economy works. J.D. Vance, I will tell you, I can understand a person changing his mind as he saw Donald Trump doing good things for America. But how can anybody think that somebody said they had to hold their nose and vote for Hillary Clinton could possibly have even a thread of conservatism in their body? You know how we all felt about Hillary. I mean, she was the devil, and rightfully so. And yet, do you know any Republican, any conservative that could ever say they could had to hold their nose and vote for Hillary Clinton? I don't know one. So I wonder what JD's all about. And I wonder what Donald Trump was thinking when he endorsed him. And I think, it's above my pay grade as to why he did it. But I have to believe it has something to do with campaign support from Peter Thiel. And do we have the West Coast now deciding who should be in office in Ohio? And I hope Ohio voters think that way when they go to the polls.
Well, I think you've made an eloquent summation of everything. I wish you the energy to finish strong today. I think it's very nice of you to accommodate us on the final day of the campaign. I appreciate very much what you've done, and I wish you well.
Thank you. You don't have to worry about me. I've got plenty of energy.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Have a great day.
We'll see you.
All right. Mike Gibbons, Senate candidate, GOP side of the primary to succeed Rob Portman.